Hello, everyone. My name is Bernie Siegel. I'm the Executive Director of the Regenerative Medicine Foundation, and we have a video series called Portraits of Hope. As our Portrait of Hope today, I'm very pleased to introduce to you a friend, Jay Feinberg. Big things have small beginnings, and Jay's advocacy story is truly remarkable. As the leader of the Gift of Life Marrow Registry, a prominent organization that has actually saved lives. It starts, of course, 30 years ago, and it is a true model of advocacy success. So Jay, if you will take the Wayback Machine and go back 30 years and talk about what was not a small thing, but a major family crisis. Let's start at the beginning.
So yeah, it does go back that far. I was about a year out of college. I was working in New York City as a foreign exchange analyst at the Fed, and I had just been accepted to law school when I got sick down the Jersey Shore, went to the hospital, and was diagnosed very soon thereafter with leukemia. And I was told that the only hope of a cure for the type of leukemia that I had was a bone marrow transplant. That the chemotherapy could potentially induce a remission, but it wouldn't offer a cure, which is what we were really looking for. So I went into New York, into the city, met with some very prominent transplant physicians, and they looked at my tissue type, and they said, unfortunately, we don't think that you're going to find a match. And I asked why. And they said, because of your ethnic background, because you're Jewish. And I couldn't process why on earth my background would have anything to do with my ability to have an equal opportunity to benefit from a transplant that could save my life. Until they explained it to me, until they told me that finding a match involves your background, that your best chance of finding a genetic match lies with people of the same ethnic background or race. And for me, that happened to be Ashkenazi or Eastern European Jewish. But unfortunately, because of the Holocaust, bloodlines were severed, and there were very few people of that background in the global registry, likening the search to looking for a needle in a haystack. So the doctor was very well intentioned, and he wanted to help me as much as he could. But his suggestion was to, go home, prepare my bucket list, do the things I wanted to do in life while I had the chance. And I'm very, very fortunate that I had a mother who was not willing to take no for an answer. My parents were
Jewish mother.
Sorry?
The Jewish mother.
The Jewish mother who was not willing to take no for an answer. And decided, well, if there's no match in the registry, let's start running bone marrow drives, and let's increase the size of the registry and hopefully find, God willing, a match for Jay, and hopefully lots of matches for lots of other people along the way. And that's how Gift of Life started. It really started as a grassroots campaign to find a match for me, and very quickly turned into a campaign to save the lives of many patients out there in similar circumstances.
It's important for us to realize that the computer and the internet was not used at that time.
Yes.
And there's a story about tearing up phone books that I remember, but you just embellish that tale a little bit because it's remarkable.
Yeah, so it's interesting. There was, you're right. There was no World Wide Web. This was very, very grassroots, very boots on the ground. We would go to the local print shop. They would make a flyer with my picture on it and my story. Urgent appeal, life-saving donor needed, and those flyers would get put up on electric poles and in bakery storefronts, and that's the way that recruitment was done. And we would look at telephone books, and we would work with genealogical societies to find people who had the same family surnames, and see if they would be willing to get tested, with the hope that maybe we might find distant relatives that we didn't know that I had. But was really truly amazing was that at the very first drive that we did, which at that time we were back in New Jersey, um, we weren't expecting a lot. We did lots of that grassroots publicity, or lots of that boots on the ground kind of thing. And when we got to the location for the drive, the line of people waiting to get tested was out the door, down the sidewalk, into the street, and the local police were there for crowd control. And what it showed me was just how amazing people can be, and just how motivated and caring people can be when someone in their community is in need and they come to the rescue. Really, really, truly amazing.
So as you said, your family, and you found the needle in the haystack. Tell us a little bit about the next steps, because what did that mean to you and your family? And what made you continue the journey and eventually create the Gift of Life Marrow Registry?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. But let me go back one step, since we're talking about advocacy. And the little story that I'm about to tell is something that I share with every single patient and every family that I work with as a patient advocate. I share this story because it's a story of not giving up hope. So we ran drives for 4 years while I was on chemotherapy, and we tested 60,000 people at 225 drives, and we found matches and facilitated transplants for hundreds of patients. But after 4 years, my disease came out of remission, and it was accelerating rapidly. And we decided that I was going to go with a donor who was a multiple mismatch. Not a good solution, but the other solution was don't do anything. So I started to get ready for that transplant, which was out in Seattle at the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center. And a young man in Chicago said, I want to run one last drive to see if I can find a match for Jay. And he wanted to do that because he was paying it forward, because a drive for me had found a match for his college roommate. So we told him, Benji, go ahead and run that drive. And we love the idea and we really want you to do it. We don't want you to get your hopes up. It probably won't help Jay, but it'll help other people out there. So he went ahead and he did the drive. He tested 130 people at that drive. He was in Chicago. The drive was at a school in Milwaukee. He brought some of his neighbors to volunteer at the drive, and one of his neighbors couldn't come that day, so she sent her sister in her place. They did the drive. That sister who I just referred to volunteered by handing out flyers and encouraging people to get tested. But at the time, we weren't doing cheek swabs. This was long before cheek swabs. This was a blood test, and she was needle phobic. But at the end of the drive, she got up the courage to have that blood test. And I kid you not, the last person tested out of 60,000 people at the very last drive, at the 225th drive, turned out to be my match. And this young lady, Becky, turned out to be my donor, and she saved my life. And the reason why I share this story is because every time I speak to a family and a patient as a patient advocate, advocating for their rights and helping them through this incredible journey that all patients go through, it's important never to lose sight of the light at the end of the tunnel and always remember that there's hope.
I once said it's like finding a patient at the end of the rainbow.
Yes.
And as I hear your story, it reminds me of many others, but yours is really quite extraordinary. The cosmic tumblers seem to turn, don't they? And every once in a while they click.
They absolutely
When they
do.
do click, the universe just provides. What an inspiring story. So what was the next step in the evolution of Gift of Life Marrow Registry?
So the next step was, following this young man, Benji's lead, who, he paid it forward by running that last drive. And I was determined that if I was going to survive this transplant, that I was going to pay it forward myself and try to help all of those other people out there in similar circumstances who were also in a position of being told that they had this horrible disease, but that a bone marrow transplant could save their life. But then, oops, there's no match, and you're not going to be able to have an equal opportunity for the transplant. My determination was that every patient deserves an equal opportunity to find a match. And what we needed to do was democratize cell therapy to make that happen. to make the registry diverse so that all underrepresented groups are well represented and that everybody has that match out there. That was what I was determined to do, and that's what I'm working to do today, thanks to Gift of Life and the literally thousands of volunteers along the way who really have made this happen.
Explain how you've built the community and how has the science and the advancement of science and biomedicine impacted the work over this course of time?
Yep. So as I said, recruitment started out grassroots. You know, nobody had heard of bone marrow transplants or being a bone marrow or stem cell donor. People hadn't heard of that back then. So it was really very grassroots. And what happened along the way, as we established Gift of Life and we started running these donor drives to build the registry, it started out with campaigns much like my own, where we were working with families in similar circumstances and continuing to test and add to the registry and continuing to add and continuing to build. And then it got to a point where, we started growing programs like our Campus Ambassador program, where we have 350 college students now on 100 college campuses across the nation, who, when it's not during a pandemic, are actively recruiting donors on their college campuses to grow the registry. And it just continued to grow from there to the point where, we had done so much that we wanted to look and see where could we improve. And what we identified was that something shocking, which is that not only do people have difficulty finding donors, which we're working actively to solve, but those people who actually are lucky enough to find a match, half of those patients don't end up getting a transplant because it takes too long for the donor to get through the process. So, and we also discovered that people can be afraid of being a donor and don't really realize just what's involved, and that it's not as scary as the way that it's portrayed in the movies or on TV. You know, Hollywood has a way of over dramatizing the process. Naturally it's entertainment, so that's why they're doing that. But in reality, it's not the scary process that everybody thinks it is. So that they're misinformed. There's lots of misunderstanding about what's involved. So we started a new collection center at our new headquarters in South Florida that treats donors like kings and queens. What we wanted to do was take the clinical out of the process. We made it very spa-like. Donors get their own donor concierge. They get to watch movies on Netflix. They get fresh baked chocolate chip cookies. I mean, you have to see it to believe it. But the thing that's key is not only treating the donors like that, but also working hard to overcome the misconceptions of what's involved in the donation process. And doing this has helped us, start to accomplish that. And it's really been a phenomenal turning point for us.
Well, I can say to the people watching this video, I've seen it firsthand. I've sampled the chocolate chip cookie, and I went in the back and had an espresso. This is the real deal. I've never seen anything like this. You provide the creature comforts, the kindness, everything that treats the donor in a wonderful way, complete with a Gift of Life Marrow Registry blanket. It's done in a way that is humane and warm, and you leave with a good feeling from this.
Yeah.
How has the science really impacted over the years what you're doing? And of course, there's a major step that you've taken now with the biobank. So you can perhaps tell us a bit about that as well.
Yeah. So something that's always been important to me is never to be complacent with what we do, never to rest on our laurels, and always know that there's ways to improve and be able to leverage science. And that's been at every step throughout the experience with Gift of Life. We were the first registry to start using cheek swabs and do molecular testing. The first to do online donor registration. And on and on, and then the registry integrated collection center. So that what we quickly discovered after establishing the collection center was that we had the ability, because we have a registry of almost 400,000 donors who have all been tissue typed and are well characterized in the registry, healthy volunteer donors who are willing to help to save the lives of total strangers. That they could not only could they help with stem cell donation for transplantation, but they could also help by donating their cells to be used as the cells that we call starting material for immunotherapies that could help even more patients than ever before. So we went back to the construction process, so to speak, and built out the first floor of our headquarters here in Boca Raton, and now have our Gift of Life Center for Cell and Gene Therapy, which includes our cellular therapy laboratory and our biobank. And we're going to be doing all kinds of exciting things in that new laboratory, most notably starting a biobank of what we call off-the-shelf cell therapy products that are available on demand for transplantation and available on demand for manufacturers of cell therapy products for use in engineering immunotherapy products for patients in need.
It's a state-of-the-art facility, for sure. Share with us how many lives have been impacted, how many lives have been saved through a match over the journey.
So Gift of Life has been responsible for just under 4,000 transplants. Our collection center, which opened last year, has actually last week collected our 200th donor. And we're very excited about the growth of that center. In fact, we are in the process of expanding it now from the ability to collect 5 donors to 7 donors at a time. And we see this growing. There's a tremendous need for what we call allogeneic, or cells from a donor products that can be used not only for transplantation but for immuno-oncology. So it's a whole new field. When you hear on TV about advances in immunotherapies and CAR T cells, chimeric antigen receptor T cells, and everything that's coming along with that, it's just truly extraordinary. And the fact that we now have that entire supply chain literally under one roof, from recruiting the donors to managing the donors with our donor center, to collecting the donors in our apheresis center, and to now processing those cells in our new cell therapy lab, and then the biobank. What it enables us to do is control quality and control the uniformity and consistency of the products that we're delivering to those patients in need.
Once again, the Gift of Life Marrow Registry is threading a needle. This is very, very important work. It's going to make all the difference in the world. Of all the registries I've ever heard of, there's the horse and buggy, there's the motor car, and there's the SpaceX. What you're doing at the Marrow Registry is very, very significant to the field. What does our audience need to know? What is the key takeaway message from your advocacy journey?
The key takeaway is that it only takes one person to save a life, and that it really is very easy to do it. I wish I had my props here. So I'm gonna demonstrate my invisible cheek swab. And that's really what it involves. It involves a swab of the cheek. And you go on our website, giftoflife.org, and you can order that cheek swab kit. It comes to your house. You sit in your family room, you swab the inside of your cheek, you send the kit back to the laboratory, and that gets you into our registry so that one day you may also have the honor and privilege of being a superhero. You don't need to wear a cape to be a superhero. It's ordinary people that are the superheroes in this world. And it only takes one to save a life. So I encourage everybody who is eligible to get tested, and you go on the website to see what the eligibility requirements are to do so. And if for any reason you're not eligible, you spread the word. Peer to peer, that's what it's all about, getting the word out there.
Well, thank you, Jay Feinberg. That's inspirational for sure. And congratulations on all the success, and we wish you continued success for the Gift of Life Marrow Registry.
Thank you so much, Bernie.